In this video, I'll show you how Tesla is about to make me a lot of money over the next few years. Now, 5 years ago, when I started investing in Tesla, my mentor back then told me that this company has a lot of problems. Other smart people told me that they feel some type of way about Elon Musk, or they think that the company is not going to get there because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. People have always felt some type of way about this company. But the only thing I felt over the past 5 years is the weight of the money that I've made off this company. 20% of my portfolio is sitting in Tesla. And that 20% over the past 5 years gave me 500% return, which is just as good as any other investment you can think of. Obviously, I talk a lot about Palantir, but you have to remember a big chunk of my portfolio also is sitting in Tesla. And in this video, I'll share with you my thesis and the actual formula of how I'm going to get even richer using Tesla stock. I'm going to show you how Tesla is going to make me another 10x from here. A stock that is just as polarizing and just as misunderstood as it was back in 2020. And that misunderstanding is worth money, which is exactly why you should click nothing, smash nothing, buy nothing. Just listen. Now, we've done the full 2-hour breakdown of Tesla in my academy over at the Roy Academy at patreon.com/Tom Nash. We went through this company in and out from any possible angle you can think of. And this lecture is going to be the executive summary of that. A quick 15-minute bottom line of the actual hard work we've done in the academy. So you have a better understanding of this stock than you had just 15, 20 minutes ago without all the hoopla. We're not talking about hopes and dreams or how we feel about Elon Musk. This is just data and objective facts. We'll talk about the bull case. We'll talk about the growth engines, the risks, the challenges, the valuation concerns. Every important aspect of the stock will be shown to you in today's video, which would allow you to make better decisions and understand what is actually going on with the stock. Because whether you're looking at the stock price or you're listening to mainstream media, you're not doing the actual real work of learning more about the stock. You're not going to learn about it from mainstream media. You're not going to learn about it by watching the price action on the daily, okay? So let's get through it. So Tesla was always a polarizing company. I can't recall a time where people didn't feel very strongly about Tesla, for better or for worse, right? The price of the stock when I bought it already went through a meteoric spike. It has gone through another meteoric spike since then. And right now it's sitting in a very lofty valuation. Nobody is saying that they ain't got potential. Nobody's saying they don't have a top tier CEO. But a lot of people are concerned about certain risk factors, such as the Chinese EV competition, which is formidable, such as the political landscape that we're in and what Elon Musk is doing with Donald Trump and all that stuff, such as the price for perfection, the valuation concerns. And of course, a lot of people think that Elon is good or bad. Doesn't really matter, but people feel very passionately about Elon Musk one way or the other. And Tesla is kind of stuck in the middle of all this soup of insanity. Now, despite that, what I can tell you is that my bull case for Tesla has never been stronger, has never been clearer, right? Despite all the nastiness that's going on, the protests and all the Elon stuff and all the negativity around Tesla right now, it is still the biggest EV brand in the world today. Even though I don't think that's the future of Tesla, selling electric vehicles, but still, despite all the craziness, they're still the top EV brand today in the world, with BYD being a second, and then big drop off from then, right? They're still putting almost 2 million new cars every year on the road. They still have robotics, energy, and full self-driving as 3 growth engines that can take the company to 3, 5, 6x of sales from this point on just within a few years. So there's a lot to like about Tesla, a lot to like about the company, not the stock, not Elon Musk, about the business. Because eventually, when you're buying a piece of stock, you're buying a business. People tend to forget that. Now, it's not like we don't have challenges with Tesla. I mean, there's a lot of challenges, right? Sure, we have a drop in sales, obviously. Sure, we have politics. We have Elon's stuff going on. The brand reputation is not as good as it used to be because of the politics. We have Chinese coming in with very, very formidable competition, cheap companies with cars that are not half bad at significantly lower pricing, right? Tesla is facing a lot of issues as far as selling electric vehicles right now because of all these factors. There are short-term challenges, and that's why the stock pretty much did nothing year to date. It went down, it went back up, but we're basically are flat. Nothing happened over the past 6 months because people are concerned. Sometimes they're concerned more, like in the first half of the first 6 months of this year. Sometimes they're concerned less, like over the past few weeks. And then the stock kind of went up again. But all in all, nothing really happened with the stock because of these concerns. They're valid. I'm not saying they're not valid, but you see, Elon has kind of put himself and he's created himself as Tesla. There ain't nothing differentiating Elon Musk and Tesla. He has become the face of the brand. He is the brand. He is Tesla, right? And then we had the Twitter deal, which became X, which alienated a lot of his people. We had the court ruling about his compensation, which alienated even more people. Then we have Trump and the politics, which is alienating a lot of the green-oriented base demographic that mostly doesn't really, like Donald Trump. So Elon is kind of breaking the cardinal rule that Michael Jordan talked about back in the 80s and the 90s, which is Republicans buy sneakers too. That's why Michael Jordan never got political, because why would you want to alienate half of your purchase audience, target audience, by going political, right? Well, Elon Musk actually has a good reason, and I've explained this in my academy. I've explained this in the actual deep dive we've done about Tesla, the 2-hour deep one, which is, by the way, on our archive. And I kind of give you a hint what I'm talking about, okay? There is a reason, there is a design behind this madness, right? But before we get to that, right now, despite all of the craziness we've seen, Tesla still dominates. They're still selling lots of vehicles. The brand is still strong. The sales are still strong. So despite all the negativity and the negative sentiment, the company, even though it did take a hit, really haven't gone off a cliff at all, right? So that's kind of a thing to remember when you hear all this negative sentiment and negative headlines. Now, the reason I'm still bullish about Tesla is very, very simple. Number one, nothing has changed in my thesis. When I look about my thesis, my bull case for Tesla, nothing that happened that got people spooked over the past few weeks, few months, none of this damages my thesis. I'm not too concerned about headlines. I'm way more concerned about Tesla being the leader in the world's biggest secular trends, which is AI and electric vehicles. I'll talk about that in a second. I'm also more concerned about Tesla being on both of AI and EVs right now as far as the lead that they have. Now, people have short memories as it comes to political scandals and all this sort of stuff. If anybody remembers Apple stuff or Facebook, formerly known as Facebook stuff, there's been a lot of scandals in the top tier companies in America, but people kind of have a short memory. But that's not really why I'm still bullish about Tesla. I want to show you. So when you look about Tesla, right? Let's focus, right, on what's actually going on with Tesla. People always throw out the slogan and say, well, it's not a car company, Tom. Well, not precisely. I'll explain what I mean. Right? Tesla is slowly but surely transitioning from selling cars, which they have done for many, many years and have done successfully, much better than original legacy automakers, right? And they're actually moving on to what I call the real story, which is full self-driving, robotics, energy, and AI. These are the growth engines of Tesla. And I can assure you, none of them got damaged in any sort of particular way by Elon's politics or him buying Twitter at all. In fact, I'll show you why FSD actually got stronger because of what happened with Elon's politics. And Elon acknowledged he's going to lose some target audience, but he's going to gain access to much, much faster FSD. And the trade-off was done not by mistake, not by accident, by design. This was not a bug. This was a feature. Now, what I'm talking about here specifically is that the main constraint for going with FSD right now is regulatory for Elon Musk and Tesla. And when Elon Musk basically gave up on a large part of his demographic to get closer to Donald Trump, he gained regulatory leeway and an open door to go ahead and deploy FSD and try to deploy it as early as possible without governmental agencies of various letters throwing a monkey wrench into that plan. So losing some audience to get regulatory traction on this, I think that was a calculated move by Elon Musk and not necessarily a bad one. I might even say a good one. Now let's go a little bit deeper here, right? So if you look at Tesla, right, on Q1 numbers that we got recently, they were not brilliant, right? Not brilliant, right? Revenue is down. Well, we had gross profit down, right? Operating margins down to 2.1%, right? It's below average numbers. Nobody's arguing that Tesla had a good Q1 of 2025. I think it's pretty obvious that they did not have a good quarter. There's no doubt about that, right? But, okay, when you look under the hood, what you find is that even though Tesla did not have a brilliant quarter as far as auto sales, what Tesla had, right? What Tesla had is 14 billion in auto sales, 2.7 billion in energy sales, and 2.6 billion in services, right? So Tesla still generated $20 billion of sales, 20 billion of sales in a bad quarter. So if you can show me more companies that give me $20 billion of sales in a bad quarter, I mean, I would like to buy some companies that make 20 billion in a bad quarter. Okay? That's one thing that kind of the media forgets. Now, if we move to the next slide, if this thing will cooperate, Tesla is not in any real problems at all. If you look at the cash flow of Tesla, right? We've got some of the strongest numbers we can imagine, right? We've got cash from operations right here, 2.1 billion. We've got 242 million in Q1 of 2024. I think the growth is pretty evident. Free cash flow, 1.3 billion, negative 2.8 billion, right? And cash, 37 billion versus 7 billion of debt, okay? So cash flow wise, Tesla is not in any world of problems. Lots of cash, much more than debt. Free cash flow is doing phenomenal. Cash flow operations is doing phenomenal. A lot better than before. So cash flow wise, Tesla is generating lots and lots of cash, and they're sitting already in a big pile of cash. So the company is doing fine operationally short term. So the noise is the noise, but nobody at Tesla is saying, oh my God, we had such a horrible quarter, we're in trouble, we have to slow down. Oh, no. They're still making bank, right? Now, what's interesting about Tesla, I think, and this is the part where I want you guys to be with me on this, is that if you look at the FSD energy and robotics, right? So we have deployments of energy, right? Up 154%. We have Robotaxi in Austin in weeks. FSD supervised launch in China. Optimus initially starting to get out 2025, the production at least, and it's going to be used initially in the Tesla plants as a proof of concept, which is not a bad idea. So all of these things, FSD, energy, and robotics, they're all moving along quite nicely. None of them stop. None of them have slowed down. In fact, energy is growing like crazy, 154% increase in deployments. And this thing is not slowing down. This is a freight train, but again, people are focused on Elon bad and the PR damage that is taken by siding with, Donald Trump. Now, I also want you to look at robotics, right? As far as robotics, right, we're talking about the biggest secular trend in history, right? Human robotics is going to revolutionize. It's the new industrial revolution, right? Employees that don't get sick, don't get hungry, don't get horny, they show up every day, they don't take vacations, right? And they're cheaper. We're talking about $100 billion market in 5 years, which Tesla will dominate just like they dominated the other markets they jumped in. We're talking about things, logistic, manufacturing services. We're talking about every single place where you have labor today, you're going to need humanoid robotics. And Tesla has both the scale, the manufacturing, and the AI capabilities, and the money with $37 billion, and the madman CEO to actually get it done, to make a push for this ahead of the curve, just like they did with EVs, right? And the fact they're going to deploy some robots in 2025 in Tesla plants, just to show that they do have proof of concept, it's brilliant. Now, people are going to say, well, Tom, the same thing will happen with robotics. And the Chinese will come in and they'll build cheaper robots. Sure, Tesla is not about selling pieces of metal. They're all about software. Just like with the auto industry, where they're moving from selling vehicles to selling FSD to a software business, Tesla will eventually let the Chinese make the robots, and they'll make the brains of the robots, and they will license it out, just like they are to do with the FSD. Same business model. So there is no problem with the Chinese are coming. They have the expertise as far as batteries from the EV sector. They have expertise with electric motors. They have expertise in visions and sensors, in scaling, in manufacturing, and they're top-tier talent. So Tesla, both in robotics and as far as the battery business, they have the manufacturing, the money, the capabilities, and the experience to make a push unlike anybody else. Nobody will be able to stop them, and people are going to sleep on it just like they did before. And I kind of mentioned the energy business. Same thing with the energy business. Nothing really different, right? Same leadership in batteries, same leadership in production. Deployments of megapacks are up 64%. Power walls are not even being sold really yet. There's a massive demand for this. People are dying to buy the power walls just as I can't make enough of them. The solar business has basically been on a pause for a while. Again, these are massive amounts of, cash flow that hasn't really happened yet for Tesla because Tesla just can't make enough of it. It's not like people are not trying to buy it. So if you take a look one step further, right? What about the grid services market? We're talking about tens of billions of dollars, right? So same advantages like I showed you before. Massive margins, and again, overlooked and misunderstood, just like we had with the EV business. Now, with FSD, there's a little bit more acknowledgement to Tesla's lead, and people kind of more understand that, even though they still argue, the Chinese no, it's impossible to copy. This is not a piece of software. This is a living, breathing organism that is actual artificial intelligence. You're not going to copy this. It's not going to happen. You need data, you need sales, you need cars, you need top-tier talent, you need everything. And why would you spend the next 10 years trying to copy FSD when you could just pay Tesla $300, $400, $1,000 per vehicle and just get it? It doesn't make any sense. Once Tesla solves this, it's not going to be worthwhile to develop by the competitors. And yes, this is a polarizing point. A lot of people see it as the next big wave for Tesla. A lot of people see this as hot air. It's okay. It's for you to decide. If you've tried FSD beta, you know it's not hot air at all. It's actually pretty phenomenal, and it's getting better. And now with Elon taking away the regulatory hurdles by going Camp Trump on the fullest, that was the only thing that's stopping him from deploying robotaxis, which means even more data and means more FSD sales, etc., etc., etc. Elon is building an ecosystem, and I think nobody's going to stop him, despite what some people would like. Elon bad, okay. Now, look, the stock is not cheap, right? It's premium. You got to pay for premium. You're not going to buy a premium product and pay cheap. I mean, obviously, you can think that Elon is bad. That's temporary. That's noise. The Chinese are coming. Good. Let them come. They're going to be Elon's biggest customers for FSD. No problem. Oh, the macro, Tom, the macro. So what? So the next 10 months, we're going to have a recession, if we have a recession, the next year or whatever. None of this stuff I was talking about, which are going to revolutionize the way we do business, both on the energy side and FSD side and robotics side, none of this is going to matter if we have a recession somewhere in the middle of that period. I mean, are you actually going to make an argument, a recession is going to slow down massive developments in science? This is noise. Focus on the business, folks, not on the noise. Now, as far as kind of the bottom line here, I think that Tesla clearly intersects every single major trend the world is going to be going through over the next few years. And I think it's going to be foolish by people to overlook Tesla again, but they will. They will, because the pressure short term is so big and the sentiment is so bad and there's so much headlines. Sure, investors never really understood Tesla. They never will fully. That's okay. I'm not saying here that risk exists. I'm not saying that it's a 100% thing. Obviously, there's risks and it might not work. But the upside here is so huge, and the CEO is so talented, and the top tier talent they have is so talented, and what they have already achieved in their track record and my 10-year horizon basically make this into a very, very interesting, lucrative investment. Of course, I have the patience. I have the ability to separate the noise from what's actually important. And I also have the understanding that what I'm looking at, even though it already has a $1 trillion market cap, is just the beginning of Tesla. If you think that Tesla isn't going to hit $10 trillion, causing lots of people to eat their hat in a few years saying, oh my God, we could have gotten in at $1 trillion. It's going to happen again, folks. Just like the same people told you in 2020, this company was too expensive. Just like people told you with Palantir, it's too expensive. The valuation. Stop. Join us. Join the Academy so you can get exposure to more things like this. Patreon.com/Tom Nash. Would love to have you there. Would love to have you in our lectures. We just did one about CrowdStrike. We did Tesla. We would love to have you there. Join us, learn, get better, stop the rat race, stop the gambling, start making generational wealth without timing the market at once. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.